I'm Adrienne.
And I'm Marilyn.
Welcome to A Cult of One, a podcast that explores why toxic relationships, groups, or ideologies are so addictive, why they're so pervasive, and what makes anyone susceptible to a cult of one, or many. Okay, so today is Cult of One's first episode. Fireworks. I want to go into like the genesis of why this exists, why Cult of One exists, and why it's, for me, one of my first outlets of like doing something that I like and something creative, which is a bomb ass feeling because I didn't know it existed. So it is the birth of a podcast that wants to disseminate healing through your ears. And it's going to come in many forms. But mainly, I mean, the goal is for it to be therapeutic. For you to understand yourself, just like we're understanding ourselves by talking this through. Me and Marilyn were both in toxic relationships. And it affected us greatly, deeply. Even though I wouldn't think about it because the experience seems so far away, but something beautiful was birthed out of it, which is wanting to understand myself, Marilyn wanting to understand herself, us as friends wanting to understand the dynamics between us during that toxic relationship. And I think that's where the real genesis is, us having these conversations constantly. It was like... One day when we got out of those relationships, we had started to do the work before, but the real work started after. And we just could not stop talking about it. It was like, did this happen to you? Are you experiencing this?
Because we were so silent in the midst of our relationships.
Mm-hmm.
We were so silent about what was going on.
We were living in silos. I didn't break down the verbiage of it. The name of our podcast is Cult of One. And that name came out of one of our conversations, following each other around the house as we do. Hi. And I was like, it's like we're in a cult of one. And Marilyn was like, that is the funniest shit. Like, we should name the podcast that. That wasn't immediate. It was like more of a like, we sat on it. But Marilyn was the one who was like, there's something to this. Or that name, because it felt like we had found a word for an experience.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, honestly, that was also part of it too. Like how I assumed that you came to the term Cult of One was because we were watching The Vow. And we were watching just like any cult documentary.
Yes.
And as we were talking about it, that's when we started learning about our own experiences within our past relationship.
Right.
Because it's like we're watching these people on these cult shows talk about the manipulation that had happened. And we're pausing these things 1,000 times because we're like, that's like what it was when I was dating my dirty boy.
Mm-hmm.
So
then we said, okay, let's bring it down, these mass cults, to a singular level,
mm-hmm.
to the minutia of it all, which is just like your life and the patterns that you create in your life. When there's a pattern of being in a toxic relationship, that's your life. It's not an outlier. It's not a one-time thing. It's not you're sad temporarily. I think often these experiences happen. One, we think we're the only one that experiences them. And second, we write it off as small, minute, something I can move on from without actually analyzing it, assessing it, and acknowledging the effects.
Mm-hmm.
We pass it off as something else. Work. I was always upset. I was always sad. The thought process never goes further. And I think in part that had something to do with the fact of justifying it for however long for however long anyone who's listening to this first episode and being like, what the fuck are they talking about? It's like, we're talking about dealing with oneself when you get out of a toxic relationship. That's what Cult of One is about. But it also is about examining. It's also about, look at me, I'm in the zone.
It's
just
cute.
Ready to like give someone a speech, stand on the top of a table. Oh my gosh.
Which she does.
I do that.
Yeah, it's so cute.
Oh my God.
I'm like,
okay, that makes sense.
The moment that you start getting
I kind of get a little bit of a high from it.
The moment you're a little tipsy and there's like multiple people around, it's like speech time is a coming.
You didn't write a speech. I love you guys. I want to say it in a speech form. That's so funny. You know what? I was getting off the phone with Samantha and I was like closing our conversation like I always do with a speech. And I said, why do I always do this? She said, I don't know. And I was like, why do I feel like I have to give a speech? And I was like, you know what? I feel uncomfortable getting off the phone. So I feel like if I can wrap this conversation up in a bow of like, this is what we learned today. And I feel good about it. We're all walking away, learning. It's just weird.
Write it down.
Right.
You know? Look back as a reference.
Yeah, it's, oh God.
What? Okay.
Is that?
Well, so
What are we doing?
Talking about the genesis of Cult of One, well, that was kind of a question that I thought of as you were talking about it, you know, because during coronavirus, we both lost our jobs, which I think
right away.
I mean, day one, it was boop, no more.
They said everything was shutting down. Me and Marilyn lost our job that Friday. No,
it's Monday, Tuesday.
Monday. You're right.
But they had said it on Sunday.
But it's funny because we didn't start taking it seriously till like Friday.
Right.
Literally, I woke you up banging on your door, being like, we have to go to the grocery store and buy everything. And you were like,
yeah, very apocalyptic.
Okay. You see how she just went along with me? I woke this. Oh, you didn't even put up a fight. I love you. Thank you. No, she's not.
It did feel eerie. So I understood your tension towards it.
My fucking anxiety.
You know, you're my best friend. I'm going to be there for you if you're freaking out. Like, all I need to do is roll out of bed right now.
I appreciate, but you know what? You never, as many times as I've woken you up, and I know you're not a morning person, you never ever snap at me. You never ever are upset.
Because I know that you know the importance sleep is to me, and like waking me up is a big deal. So if you do it, I trust that you respect this line. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I understand it's a moment that you need.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this summer I did wake you up for an outfit check, and but
it was for a cute boy.
Thank you.
You know?
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's, you know,
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because it does feel like I need to talk to you.
Yeah.
I need to talk to you now.
Well, especially if I don't need to move, you know, I'm just like opening my eyes saying like, yeah, that's cute. Try something else. You know, it's not that much exertion. I'm not saying it can happen every day.
No,
but
and I respect that.
It's allowed when, you know, when it's clearly needed. But when we were going through coronavirus, it's still happening. When the pandemic
it's
first
at its
hit,
worst.
Right.
Pause.
Yeah.
It's at its worst.
Right.
Continue. They said we had more deaths than we had in the summertime.
Well, so
okay.
I think what's kind of, I don't want to say ironic because I don't think that's the right term, but it's like everybody was kind of having that feeling of like when things go back to normal and things go back to normal. But now it's like, and then for a while they were saying like, this is the new normal. But I truly feel like it's to the point of like, this is the new normal where it's like, all right, we're just roaming. We're going to go wear masks. We just can't do these things anymore. We're not going to the club anymore. Okay. Like I feel like a lot of people have fallen into routines. And although I think people are being a little more flexible than they should. You know what? I say this from my own position. That's how I feel.
Your perspective is
I know, but let me not. I'm saying this like this is a collective feeling.
Instead of being like specifically, this is my perspective.
Yeah, this is my feeling.
Okay,
yeah.
You fix that. Continue.
So I feel
I'm
perfectly happy as things are. Like there's like things here and there that I miss. You know, like I would like to go shake my booty at the club, but I'm okay that I can't. Like, all right, I'll just have a dance party by myself in my room.
Yeah.
Like, that's enough for me. I like being in the house.
Yeah.
I like, you know, and I'm kind of happy. Okay, cool. Restaurants are open. But honestly, I like that, you know, you can't be like stacked on top of each other. We get a little space up in here. So for people who need to go out, there's still like some option for you, you know?
Well, I think this is not a conversation. What you just said is describing what life would be if everyone had the necessities of life and if everyone didn't have to go to work every day, because then there would be more space for everyone to breathe and there would be more opportunities. The pandemic has created space for people like you and me. We got on unemployment. We can find jobs. We didn't have to move. Our life pretty much just stopped, but already we had more than enough.
Well, honestly, for me, it's like, I mean, it has absolutely like changed for the better. It's horrific what's happening all around us, but in my little silo and like for the people who are connected around me,
everybody's good.
I mean, yeah, and better. Like I am better. I mean, minus I also got out of a toxic relationship right before coronavirus hit. So that in itself has lifted me, you know? But yeah, I also got out of a toxic work industry.
Yeah.
The entire industry, all of my jobs had their own forms of toxicity that was just like, this cannot be it. Hospitality industry.
Yeah.
So I feel like I was able to shed so much of that and be like, I get to start over and I'm allowed the time to start over. I was able to collect unemployment so I can like make sure that my needs are met and I can actually focus on things that I want to be doing because I'm good at these things and I want to have a runway to make it work for myself. And yeah, I was offered that with the unfortunate coronavirus.
Unemployment, aka universal basic income. That's why that afforded a lot of that.
Yeah.
I would say all of it. Because if we didn't have universal basic income, what it's now called is unemployment, we wouldn't be able to pay our rent. We wouldn't be able to still live here. Ultimately, we would have to have moved out.
Well, and it's just like...
depleted our savings.
There's this notion of people who collect unemployment or people who don't have jobs are lazy. One, who cares if someone is lazy? If they don't want to do something, they didn't choose to be on this earth. So like, let them do nothing. And then the people who do work, because there's, I would say, a majority of people who do want to have their own purpose. And if they can do that by helping others in whatever form, whether that be cooking for others or being a social worker or being a police officer, they would do these things because they genuinely want to, and people would be better at their jobs and we would have a better run society.
Correct.
Because people are doing what they want to do because they don't have to. And they still get to make more money. If you want to have these luxury things, then work.
Okay. It gives you agency over your life.
Yeah.
Money gives you agency over your life.
And why is that so crazy to ask for?
It's not.
Agency over your life.
It's not. It's not. Anyone who tells you differently is in a cult. Their cult is just like classism. That's another... before I stumbled over my words and then we talked about my love for giving speeches. Cult of One doesn't just explore toxic relationships. It also looks at the cult mindset of industries. Like any aspect of life has essentially a cult-like following of some sorts, whether that be religion, whether that be working, whether it be a particular industry like hospitality or pharma. Look at the patterns in there that are being exploitative to people, that are being toxic to people, that are being harmful to people, that are not taking into account mental health, that are using people. And that gets just... That holds a candle just as much as toxic relationships. It just comes in the same form, honestly.
It is the same form. It's
the
just,
same thing.
It's just acted out in a different place.
Yeah, well said. It's portraying itself in a different way, or a way that you might just not be privy to, which is a tactic of being in a cult, which you're more susceptible to something if you don't know what's happening. If you don't know you're being hypnotized and then you start doing something, you're more susceptible, but it's not a fair fight. Things are stacked up against you. And essentially we want to analyze that, but in the concept of the mind, in the concept of psychological warfare. You know, what does that do to a human? How bad does it get? Does it affect you physically? Yep. Does it affect you emotionally? Yep. Okay, those are the two things that run your life, and it's affecting your life.
That was good. We got it. That was nice. So,
we got it. Okay.
I mean, so that's what Cult of One is about.
That's what Cult of One is about.
And that's what we're here.
Look at it. Yeah, we're like, okay, that's what we're...
All right, so that's what it's about.
We gotta cut that out.
So... like that conversation, these are the types of conversations we've been having all summer. And through that, you know, we're both leaving the hospitality industry. I already have like a place that I've been trying to get to for multiple years. So like I knew my direction. Like the second I was dropped out of hospitality, I'm like, I'm ready to go. I've been trying to go, you know, I have these things in place. this is what I'm going to try to do now. Adrienne finally had the time to decide, what do I want to do now? So she took her time through the summer. Yeah. To figure out what she wanted to do. Seriously. Like, we've been talking for years, happiness with work-life balance, blah, blah, blah. But it's like,
how do I put that into action in my own life?
Right.
How do I put those words into my patterns?
Right. So one of the things that she figured out through her own thinking, through her own therapy with herself, with others, with her therapist, you came across like wanting to do podcasts.
Mm-hmm. That was last year. Remember I bought this shit and I was talking to Lauren? Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like you wanted to do a podcast for a while, but then just wasn't sure on what I'm telling your story.
No, I like it.
I'm like, do you want to tell this part?
No.
I don't know. But yeah, so she wrote down podcasts, but she's like, I don't really know. I mean, what's the topic here? What do I talk about? I like talking to people, but as a podcast, when you're trying to sell something, you kind of got to have like a general
I wasn't even
idea
thinking about selling
something.
anything.
That's fair. And it wasn't until, we figured out this whole like cult of one for us, putting that term to like what happened to us, learning, understanding more what happened to us. And then it was finally like, I think I was in bed and I texted you and I was like, cult of one, that's it. Because it's such a funny term that is so descriptive of what it is for so many people.
Yeah. It's an actual description.
Yeah.
It's a literal
It's a term and a description all in one.
It's a little explanation.
Yeah. I want to put a bow on it. Boop. But yeah, and then I think that's when I wrapped myself into it, because it was like, we both have these stories and I can help produce this thing. Yeah. And I turned everything into a business. So
yeah, and let's say that right. When you were like, how can I make it? I was like, no, that's you. But that's why, we are winning and where we are, because I feel like I can only do things for therapeutic reason because a bitch is always stressed and I be trying to reduce that as much. And so that's what, when it comes to like, well, I'm going to say like Beyonce said, but like I see how she wins, and honestly anyone that enjoys their life, more than not, I guess that could be the metric. Usually they have people around them that support them. And she did say this, it's like, you got to have people down for the cause. It's like Marilyn's down for the cause for real. And also can do the things I don't want to do, can't do, don't have a passion in. And specifically for anyone who is trying to apply words to their life, sometimes it's hard to conceptualize that, to actually tactically put those things together. And so having someone supportive is awesome. You can obviously, do these things by yourself. Plenty of content creators. Plenty of people do that in general, But I feel like this is birthed by two beautiful, amazing women, Adrienne and Marilyn, because we work well together. And particularly this, it's kind of like all the things that we went through in our friendship, I feel like in some forms is helping us so much, predominantly because we did the work with each other and it's continued work. I mean, this gets at how you get out of a cult of one into a healthy space, I don't want to say healthy cult of one space, but perhaps that does exist. I don't know why I should take that out, because you can be in a good pattern with yourself. You can be in a good relationship with yourself and others, Cult of one, it does stand for toxic relationships, but perhaps it shouldn't. It's like two sides to a coin. You can be happy just as easily as you can be sad. Our better way to say that is you can try just as easily as you can.
Well, you have choices in either matter. Yeah. You have the choice to be happy. You have the choice to be sad. Yeah. I mean, I understand in some cases.
Right. What I guess, and to link that, we're talking about if you can source your sadness, you figure out where it's coming from, address it, analyze it, and look at it.
And then do the same on the other side of like figuring out what is making you happy. So that way, in other realms that are making you sad, you have a better understanding of how to make it into something that you can then be happy about.
Right. And, talking about the isms, we're speaking from a place of we don't want for anything, right? We have everything we need. And so when we got out of our toxic relationships, we had space to communicate about it constantly. If I'm constantly looking for housing, if I have no food on the table, if I have no stability in my life, it's going to be harder. And I can't speak on that. And that's why we have guests on the show like therapists. We will have guests on the show like therapists, coaches. But there's a word.
Relationship coaches.
Why we have relationship coaches, people, survivors, to speak where we can't. Because we know that we got our vocabulary, our confidence from speaking about our personal experience. And I know that I was able to do that by learning from others who had experienced the same thing I did, who in some cases looked just like me, you know, and that's also super helpful. Seeking that out, especially for people of color. You know, you can have mental health issues too. You can be the number one person that you're like, you love. It could just be you. Okay, so let's talk about Felton.
Let's talk about Felton.
Okay, so I'm telling my story. And I feel like it's weird because I don't have the pain there anymore. My experiences with it, I have triggers, but I know where the triggers are from. However, my growth state right now, I handle them independently without needing to revisit a memory. Whatever that means.
Like you can immediately understand where it's coming from without having to feel that again.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. So like where we met, how.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't you tell us how you met him? Okay. What was the draw? You know, how often were you seeing him? Like the whole scene. What's going on?
So, I met Felton at work. I had just moved to Chicago about a year before I met him. I wasn't on dating apps. So my experience being around, like, 'cause I really didn't date a lot either in college or I had a boyfriend in high school. I liked boys in college. And we had a group of like guys that we kick it with that are my friends to this day, fabulous people. But I really wasn't dating like that. And so Felton was the first person I really dated. And I called him my boyfriend, you know, and so
what was it? I don't mean to interjecting your train of thought, because you didn't date that often, you know, what was the draw to him? I myself know you. Listeners don't.
Right.
But yeah, you're picky with men. Right. And I'm not saying that in a type of way. You're just picky with men, which people deserve to be picky when you're trying to find your partner.
Right. And I have a standards. That's what that means.
Yes. Thank you for a better term. So like, what was it? Was he reflecting on those standards?
Initially, he was a nice guy. I really, I thought he was cute. He was nice. He seemed like he didn't care in a sense of like, I'm living my life for me. It felt like he had a sureness about him, and that was attractive to me. And I don't need like flashy things. What I need is like, I'm over here sitting in the cut. That's where I want to be, chilling. And so that was the allure. But the thing is, I feel like, I think maybe I was like in a space where I was like, okay, because I look back and I think nothing was that grand. And, it was just very mediocre. But also like, I want somebody to kick it with. Like, and I had already started having bomb friends. I was working at Catalyst. So it was like, I was just raking up friends in terms of, I know I worked in the hospitality industry, but friends. I didn't have any close friends. And I'm coming from college where I have close friends. So it's like, I'm in want of that too. And like Felton's acting like he wants to be my boyfriend. All right, cool. That would be nice.
I mean, do you think that was kind of part of, yeah.
Yeah.
On wanting somebody to be close with. And it just happened that he was forthcoming on that, on being like, let's be close.
Yeah. But my perspective then was I really attached myself to him and I got really, really entranced with him. And I don't think that he had any magical powers at all. I think there was a switch that went off that was willing to really devote myself to this person. And I can't say that he switched that. I think that might have been that space when people are vulnerable, but not because the person is being insidious to make it. It's like, no, you yourself might have been vulnerable. Like I was just in a vulnerable space because I just moved to Chicago a year ago. I'm just like, I'm in school. Also that, like, I really wasn't, before I completely was like in a cult of one, I had a lot of shit going on and it was all good. I was in school. I had a job. I just moved to Chicago, and I was about to get my own apartment. I had my own apartment already, a 1-bedroom where he did not. He was still, I think, living with his mom. So I'm like, I don't need you. I mean, like, I remember when he left his toothbrush at my house, I was like, why? I really wasn't thinking too much into it. And I'm trying to, in my head, pinpoint when I decided to just like be like, no, I want to be his girlfriend. And I think it was him like showing me attention. Obviously, I liked him. Yeah, I don't know when that switch went off, because I just really remember being in a place where I was just like,
do you think, was there a time that he like was leaving, or you guys fought or something? And then it was like was there a time like that?
Yeah.
That then you were kind of like, wait, I do want him to stay.
Yeah. And it was crazy because I remember he called and he was cussing at me. I had never had a man cuss at me ever. Ever.
This was one of your first fights?
Yeah. But the fight was about, it was his birthday and I had left him because he was just being mean, seeming like he didn't want me around. And I really couldn't understand why. And I think that's where it starts the, what's the word? Limerence. It was like, you don't want me around, but why? I'm so nice. And I'm so nice to you. Like, I just buy you this shit for your birthday. And it seems like you're being short with me. I think I was mad because he didn't introduce me to a friend. And I was like, what's going on here? Whether that was nothing, me looking into something or not, I just felt undervalued all of a sudden. And I remember I was talking to someone and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to say it. He's not very nice to me. So and that was, only a couple of months in, and I just kept on going. So I really can't, I guess I kind of did pinpoint when it was like, I want this person to like me all of a sudden, because it seems like they don't, but I don't know why they don't, because it seemed like they did. They just did. And then again, that was a couple of months in, so I can successfully say that the whole relationship was that way. It was what I saw, what it was a couple of months in, which is someone who's hot and cold with me, lies to me, gaslights me, and then will be nice to me when he wanted to. I really didn't know a lot about him. He wasn't forthcoming at all. I mistook a person being around sometimes. He wasn't even around that much. I mistook the physicalness of him being around sometimes as somehow enough for me. There wasn't anything there, but I convinced myself that the pain I felt was justified because this person would tell me they loved me. He never not told me he loved me, but his actions pushed me away. And beyond push me away, he was never there. We didn't communicate. And when we did, it would be contentious. I felt like I would walk on eggshells when I was around him because I didn't want to upset him, because I didn't want him to stop talking to me, which he would do even when I did what he wanted me to do, which was, I felt, be submissive. Don't bring up him gaslighting me. And when he needs me, I need to be available. And when he needs me, I need to be available. That was a readiness drill. That in Nexium, they called those readiness drills. Mm-hmm. Me and Marilyn started watching those Cult of One, and
started watching The Vow.
Started watching The Vow. And we saw the psychological abuse that was happening to the people that were in a cult, and it was mirroring some of the experiences that we were having, that I was having. And it was fucking weird and scary, but more weird.
Because it's one of those things which, you hear people say, which is like anybody can be susceptible to this.
Yeah.
But it's like when it actually happens to you, you're like, God damn, this can happen to anybody. Because in both of our situations, you were just explaining like you were good. You didn't need him.
Yeah.
And same, like when I fell into mine, it was like I was good. I had plenty of friends around me. I was like doing well in my career. I don't need you. But then you slip.
Well,
things happen. They manipulate you. And it's confusing. So you get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
But it can happen to anybody. It doesn't have to be somebody who's like already down low and easily manipulative. You can think that you're not easy to manipulate, and you can be manipulated.
You should walk into everything thinking, I'm easy. And I think that easy to manipulate, because I think that keeps you tapped into your intuition, and that your personal experience matters. When you hold tight to that, it's harder to be gaslit. It's harder for you to stay because you're in tune with yourself. And anyone is susceptible to being a cult of one because everybody is vulnerable. And that's really the entranceway of walking into a cult of one experience, walking into a toxic relationship and toxic experience. It starts at vulnerability, and, it can shoot off into fear. It can shoot off into financial needs. It can, you walk in, there's 1,000 other ways, but where are you vulnerable? And everybody has vulnerabilities, because being vulnerable is such a intimate and emotional thing. It's rooted in that. And that's what also makes it so hard to explain and put words to. And that's what keeps it going and so pervasive and thriving in our society, where mental health is seen as a weakness, is seen as something not to be believed, is seen as something to dismiss, when it's at the crux of why we act the way we do. It's really sad. So that's my story. And I feel like also gets at why Cult of One is bomb, because we have words now. So now we can call it out. Now we can heal from it, and now we can talk about it. And I think that's a game changer when you know what's happening to you and how to explain it. Because then you can also confront the person who may be using these tactics against you, but you can also confront it for yourself. I know that when I texted you and you said that you were coming over, you're coming at 3, and you're trying to tell me you never text me. I know this is a lie because I have this, and this, because of my own experience, because I remember, and then you can leave. You just lied to me, and you just tried to convince me of something else. That's harmful.
Yeah. Listen to your intuition, because it is the deepest part of you. Listen to it.
Don't ever let someone tell you that the world is fucking a silo for you and them.
Yeah.
That you will find no one else. That this is all there is. There's so much experience to be had with other people, other places. I think that's the most harmful thing that happens to people who are in toxic relationships. Your perception of reality is skewed, and you think you can't be without that person. And it's a complete fucking lie. And there's shame around it, and you can move past shame.
Yeah, feel okay feeling shame.
It's okay.
Like you gotta do it.
Yep.
Because if you're trying to be happy, if you're trying to be living a growing lifestyle, like you got to be okay with failing every once in a while, and that includes in an emotional state.
Mm-hmm. Just like everything else. That shows you're trying. Mm-hmm. That's all that shows. That's the most important thing that shows. That's not all that shows. I take that back. That's just one of the most important on the top 5, at least. That like, oh, guess what? You're trying in life. You got to start somewhere. Be kind to yourself. Love yourself. Know that you're not the only person. Know that it's more pervasive than you want to know.
Yeah. And because it's so pervasive, let yourself learn about it when you go through those experiences, so that way it doesn't continue to be pervasive in your life.
Right.
Because if you don't talk about it to yourself, to others, it's going to keep happening to you. Because you're going to remain in that space, and you're going to remain in a space of saying that it's okay when it's not okay.
You're important. Speaking to anyone who may be in the situation, who's out of it, whatever space you're in, because I never get sick of hearing that I'm important, that my choices matter, that me being happy and my mental health being good, being stable is important, because that's often not reflected back at us at media. And the good part is, if you're looking for things to heal yourself, there's a lot of space out there for you. With this podcast and Cult of One, I really hope that it gives people the words to use, that it gives people the tools to use to live your life with the most agency and autonomy as possible, and to be happy. Sadness will always be there, but you can mitigate it.
Yeah.
with healthy patterns.
And that is Cult of One.
Yeah, cool.
We hope you keep listening.
Let me keep you. Also, there's a lot of fine ass, beautiful ass men out there. That's where I want to end my story, because I feel like I like faded out, but it's like, just like every goddamn thing else, you're gonna get over that. And you're gonna be like, oh, I'm bomb.
Yes, you are bomb, and there are other bomb people that actually match you.
Yeah. If that don't work for you, find someone else. Because guess what? There's so many. Get on the fucking app and make that shit work for you. Whoever fucking tells you there's no one else, they're a liar. There's like 100 million people on fucking dating now. Yeah. And that is the primary way people meet. However you feel about it, there's an avenue. So don't say you don't have options. God damn it. Don't say it, because it's not true.
Don't say it.
Because it's not true. Don't believe that fucking lie. Yeah. All right. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us.
We're done.
Catch you next time on
Cult of One.